Hey there, today I wanted to go over Shinku. Let's get into her kit. Her basic attack, there isn't much to say about it, we are never gonna use it. The only thing you need to know is that her basic attack multipliers works for all of her passives, so that is why we have to level it anyway. Her skill isn't much to say there either. Her base skill doesn't really do anything besides do a bit of damage. Her ult is where the real meat and butter comes in. So her ult changes her entire kit kinda. You turn into your demon form. You're gonna get a new skill and you're also gonna get a new ult. So to go in for your skill are gonna use your skill multiplier, which is why you have to level your skill. Every time you get a charge proc, it will increase the charge of your skill as well when you are in your ult form. And you can use up to 5 skills every ult. Also, when your ult has run for a certain amount of duration, it will allow you to use your ult 3 times. It is important that you use these 3 ults right away. Once you have done those 3 ults, you're gonna get a 4th ult that it uses automatically. So if you don't use your 3 ults and you don't get 5 skills, it's gonna automatically use your 4th ult and put you out of the ult state, which is why you're on a timer. Next up, we have her support skill, which is just you swap into her and do a bit of damage. Then we have her first talent, which is gonna be the most important talent almost, where every time you proc an Esper cycle, or the Blossom Esper cycle specifically under the charge effect, you are gonna do extra AoE damage. And you're also gonna give charge to your entire team the same amount as Shinku gets. So whenever Shinku gets charged, your entire team gets charged as well, so you're all gonna match up your ultimates. Unfortunately, Shinku can't get her ult energy while she's in ult, so that is the downside. It also, every time you hit a Blossom proc, it also increases your attack by 5%, stacking up to 10 times. It is a 1 second cooldown. This is why Nanalie is so important, because she changes the blossoms to hit every 1 second instead of every 2 seconds. And because there's a 1 second cooldown, it means Duran can't really use this passive effectively. Even though she summons 2 blossoms, they attack at the same time, which means that only 1 proc counts, as there's a 1 second cooldown between them. That is everything for this passive. It's a really good passive. Next up, we have the second passive, which just does more damage to non-boss enemies. This is really good for clearing AoE flaws or open world stuff. Then we have the other passive, which is Menacing Gaze. Whenever you are in combat and you don't attack, you will generate stacks, up to 8 stacks by default. So instead of attacking, you just have to stare at the enemy until you get 8 stacks. Then when you attack with 8 stacks, you do a big burst of damage. And this stacks pretty slow. It's like 1 stack every second roughly. So this is why we don't use basic attacks, because we want to stack this passive up. And we can't stack this unless we are not basic attacking. Then we have the cafe. I'll try and keep it short, but her cafe is really good. She's not that good on her own, as you can see from the character ranking. She is just slightly better than traffic characters on her own. Still worth to use if you have her and to put her in on her own. Where she really shines is when she gets paired with Sakiri, because both of them are using 3 tags. Shinku needs 3 beverages and Sakiri just needs 3 of one kind of dish, which can be any dish, so beverages count as well. This makes it so Sakiri can be slotted in with Shinku without having any downsides. And Sakiri helps up making up for the loss in the dish price difference that we have to swap from the main dish to the beverage. All in all, if you want to see all the math, it is in the spreadsheet, but Shinku plus Sakiri is an insane broken combo and they rank far above all of the others. and they dethroned Aurelia as the first slot. Her second life skill helps with Mahjong, so if you are a Mahjong enjoyer, you can level that up to spend your city stamina faster, so you save some time on your weeklies. Let's get into the build for Shinku. I have made this little graphic for you. For the skill priority, you're gonna want basic, ult, then skill, but you basically have to level them all at the same time, as they all use their individual multipliers. Basic attack for the passives, the blossom and the menacing passive. You're gonna want basic attack to scale those. For the ulti, you obviously want it for the ult damage, both for the free ults, the last ult and the beginning of the ult. Then you're gonna want the skills for the 5 skills during your ult, which is scaled by your skill. So you're gonna want to level all of them pretty much the same. For her weapons, her best weapon is her limited weapon, the Blossom Mirage. The next best weapon is gonna be Chaos Limited weapon, What's Desired. If you don't have Chaos Limited weapon, you can use the Battle Pass weapon, Fluff of Furiosity, which is almost as good as Chaos weapon. Then for the free to play options, we have Camellia's Society, which is Bai Xiang's weapon, and we have A Time Will Come as an A rank weapon. It is probably around 2% worse than Camellia's Society, but it is an option if you don't have Camellia's Society for whatever reason, if you're using it on Bai Xiang on a different team. For the gear for Shinku, we are gonna be running Lost Radiance, and on the right side you can see the Tetris pieces, how they're set up. For the main stat, we are gonna want crit rate over elemental damage. For substats, we are gonna want crit rate, crit damage, damage percentage, and attack percentage. Let's get into the team comps. There isn't too much to talk about the team comps. She only has one really viable team comp, which is MC, Skier, Nanali, and Shinku. That is the bread and butter team comp that everybody is most likely gonna be using. This is the non-free-to-play comp. Team comps, if you do have a bit of copies, you're gonna need 1 or 2 copies of Chaos, and ideally 1 or 2 copies of Shinku to play this team. Shinku, Chaos, Heather, and Nanali. This team comp does do a decent amount of damage, and you get to play Chaos with Shinku. But the downside is that you need copies, ideally on both Shinku and Chaos, to play this team comp. You can get away with just having copies on one of them, but it's not ideal. Then we also have another team comp, which is the Full Whale team comp. You're gonna need C6 or A6 on all of these characters. This is the Zero Cycle team comp, where you basically secure ult, Bai Xiang ult, Hotaru ult, and then Shinku ult. Because the ult don't use any time, you can basically one-shot the boss doing Hotaru ult. So this is the Zero Cycle team comp if you are a whale. Let's get into the other elemental options. Instead of Nanali, you can use G1 for your E floors, or you can use Mint for boss floors, although they are less damage. For Lakshana, we have Heather. You can replace Skier with Heather. The only downside is Heather can't use Good Boy's Arc, which means you're losing a bit of attack percentage from using Heather, but it's not a big difference. You also have Chaos as an option. If you do have 1 or 2 copies of Chaos, you can slot him in instead of Skier. Then for the Cosmo, we have MC. I highly suggest you do not swap MC out, but if you do need MC on another team, although I would prioritize her on Shinku team myself, you can use Hattori or Chess. Next up, we have the rotations. Let's get into Shinku's rotation. First, let me explain what the numbers means on the skill and the basic attack. That is your menacing stacks that you're gonna want to have. So you're gonna start out with 8 menacing stacks on your skill, then you're gonna wait to get 4 menacing stacks and then basic attack. Then you're gonna ult, skill, 2 basic, skill, basic, skill, basic, skill, basic, skill. And then you wanna ult 3 times and then you use your final 4th ult. That is your Shinku rotation. So if you want to plug this or Shinku into any other team, this is most likely gonna be the rotation you're gonna want to use. For the team rotation, let's go over the builds a bit. We have S for Zero, Skia, Nanali and Shinku in this team comp for the rotation I'm going to show you. If you want to see the builds, you can see them above here. So let's get into the rotation. We're gonna start with 8 menacing stacks. We're gonna skill here on Shinku. Then we're gonna wait for 4 stacks. You can parry, by the way. Then you get 4 stacks. Then we're gonna swap to Skia after we auto attack. Then we're gonna Skia ult. Then we're gonna Skia skill. And then swap into MC. Then you're gonna EQ on MC. Then swap into Nanali. Then you're gonna Q with Nanali. And then E and then swap off into Shinku. And then you're gonna Shinku ult. And pay attention to the bottom right. Every time we get a blossom charge, we get a big E proc. 1 E, 2 E, 3 E's. That's 4 E's. And then the 5th E here. And then you wanna use your ults right away for the 3 stacks before it auto uses the 4th ult. Then we're gonna wait for 8 stacks. It's important that you use your ults as soon as possible when it lights up to get those 3 ult stacks off. Then we're gonna wait for 4 more stacks, just like we did in the first rotation. You can skip these 4 stacks, but I found it more consistent to not skip it. But if you do want to slow or speed the rotation up a bit, you can try and test with skipping those 4 stacks. That is gonna be everything for the rotation. Next up, I will show you the graphic of the rotation if you like it in picture form. You can pause the video and take a screenshot or look at it. Next up, we have the Awakenings. Awakening 6 just increases your damage by 30% for some of your skills and stuff like that. This is the first recommended one. Second recommended one is A2. It's just ignore 10% Cosmo resistance. Third one is gonna be Menacing. Can now stack to 16 stacks and it does a bit of extra damage. This is the third one I recommend getting. This is a really good one. It allows you to instant cycle because the 16 stacks your ult and your cycle bar up to full right away. Then the next one we have Shinku damage ignore 12% of target defense. Second last one, Menacing stacks in off field, and then third one is just survivability. Let's get into the gifts. Honestly, the gifts are pretty bad for Shinku. Giga Fluff at 400 points is the most optimal one. At 200 points we have Glimmering Eyes, and at 100 points we have Puga Chocolate Special. But the Puga Chocolate Special is the worst 100 points gift I have ever seen. So it's honestly not even worth saving your funds to get it. I think it takes way too long. I would suggest getting the Glimmering Eyes. Even if you're trying to save as much funds as possible, I would still buy the Glimmering Eyes if I were to actually level Shinku. Gifts up. So do I recommend pulling Shinku? If you're missing a main DPS, I definitely recommend it. Or if you just want to pull her for waifu, I would recommend pulling A0. If you want to invest more into her, I would recommend pulling A2 and then pulling her weapon. If you don't want to go A2 or A3, then I recommend pulling her weapon and staying at A0. She's completely fine at A0 as well. A2 does future-proof her a bit more, so she can be used as a sub DPS in the future. So it's up to you if you want to invest into that or not. Next up, I will just show a comparison of Shinku damage versus Chaos, both at A0 team comps. Shinku does around 30 seconds faster than Chaos, so she's a lot better than the Doom posters were saying, and she's also a little bit better than what I initially thought in my thoughts video on the early CN patch. That is everything for this guide video. Hope you enjoy and hope to see you next time.